Welcome to Recovery His Way. I'm Tom Reynolds, director of His Way, and we're here on the campus in Northeast Huntsville. We're joined here today by Cyrus King. Cyrus, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
And I appreciate you coming and being willing to share. You have a unique story with the program in that this is your third time here.
Yes.
And you've been here a couple of times, once you graduated, once you did not. And now you're in just past 30 days. We had your family meeting yesterday.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of getting to that point of starting looking for jobs and that type of thing. So I'm interested in you sharing with us just kind of your journey. What prompted you to come to His Way the first time? Now you're here for the third time. And have you come for different reasons, different times? What are you finding when you come? Is it the same program over and over? Or is it different in some ways as you come into it? So what brought you here?
Well, I was broken. I think that was the main thing. I could say that the court system brought me here, or it was for my family, but inside I just knew that it was something just wasn't right, and whatever wasn't right, I wasn't able to fix myself. So I ended up going to another rehab before I came here the first time. Mm-hmm. I went to the Salvation Army, mm-hmm. and I stayed there 56 days.
Okay.
And at 56 days, I didn't learn anything about
56 is pretty specific.
I hit it right down to the day. I knew what was going on, So I don't know, they made me like a house man. And I'm thinking, with that being my first recovery, time of trying to get clean, I figured, okay, well, you're gonna at least give me some type of information on, how to get clean, or, these classes. And it wasn't that. I just mopped the floor every day for like 56 days. And eventually, they kicked me out. So, I asked and I questioned them. I said, well, why did I get kicked out? And they had no reason. They just said that I wasn't working out in the program. So I ended up leaving, and I had to go back to court. And the thing about it was that, if I was to get kicked out of the program, I was supposed to go to jail. But luckily, she, the judge, she had, mercy on me, I guess you would say, and asked me to find another program. So I did. I had a friend that came through here, and so I knew about His Way, and I decided to come here. So that was probably one of the best decisions that I made, because when I got here, it was a different atmosphere. It was a different environment. Even though it was more people here than it was at the Salvation Army, it was more of a one-on-one contact. You could feel, you could feel the love. You could feel that, that people here really cared about you and your situation and making that better. So I guess what brought me, to His Way was the fact that I knew that I needed a change, and I had seen this place change other people, and I figured that I should give it a shot. Maybe it could change me as well.
I know you were here once, and you graduated, and you went back out, and then you came back for a short time.
Yeah.
And now you're back again, probably about a year after all of that. Mm-hmm. So, what do you find is helpful here? What do you find you struggle with? I mean, obviously this isn't your first go round. So,
no, it's not.
What's happening? Share with us your process. I mean, what have you gone through? What's kind of led you to where you're at today?
Right, but the first time I came, it was like I already mentioned, it was more due to like the court. Even though I knew I was in a bad place, it still had a lot to do with the court. So I knew I had to graduate the 6 months. So I stayed the 6 months and I graduated. But while I was here, it changed from having anything to do with the court. It was more about me getting myself together, and it was working. Out of those, I think it was 9.5 to 10 months that I stayed here, that was the happiest I'd ever been in my life. And I mean, if I felt like I was actually accomplishing things and, that the program was actually working, people ask me, they say, well, does His Way work? And I tell them, yeah, it works. And I can tell you it works. Although I may have slid off, later down the line or whatever. But if I were to stick to the routine, then it would have definitely, been a successful mm-hmm. program. So as when I left after the 9 months, it was more like being in a relationship, and when a girl leaves you, or whoever your loved one leaves you, then that's a heartbreaker, and it can tend to derail you. So I think at that time, I gained a family here, mm-hmm. So to be uprooted at that point, at that 9 to 10 month mark, it was really it was a blow, and I knew mm-hmm. that I did what I did, in order to have to leave, but still, at the end of the day, I had to leave. So that wasn't a good thing for me at that time. But the tools that I learned, that while I was here, I still use those, and I did pretty good, for a couple of months, and I still had a weakness. Still, felt like I wasn't good enough just to take care of myself. I still had to try to prove, or try to, bring, others along with me. And that was a downfall, because I wasn't strong enough to take on anybody else's problems. It was right. At that point, I was still barely, making it on my own.
Sure.
So, so the second time that I came, I knew I was in a bad spot, but I knew that I wasn't really ready to change at that point. The drugs that I ended up, when I got here, I was alcoholic, and it worked for that. I haven't drunk since I came here. But the second time I started messing around with heroin. So that was a drug that I had never had any experience with. I never knew that it could be that powerful to the point to where it commands your life. It's not a saying, okay, well, although I'm here, I'm gonna try to get clean. No, it's just like just a monster in the back of your mind is telling you, you're not gonna stay there. No, you're not. We're gonna go, and go and get this fix or go and get high. So the second time I came, I wasn't ready for change. Maybe on the inside I was, but still it was certain things I felt like, I needed to do. And I didn't want to, at that point, I wasn't a good influence on anybody. So I didn't want to sit up on the smoke deck and, have the negative conversations. I didn't want to, involve myself knowing that I'm the wolf in the sheep's clothing at this point. I can sit around, I can talk a good game, and say, okay, we need to do this and do that. But I'm convicted on the inside, knowing that I'm not doing the same things. So that time when I left, it was, more of it was a choice. I made that decision to do what I did, and I left. And I think that that may have helped with coming back this time, because this time it's a different vibe. First, I came sober, so coming sober, it actually allowed me to see the program for what it was. Most of the time I move too fast. But this time I'm actually walking, and to walk through the program and do the program as the program is set up to be done, it helps. Like the Bible test. A lot of guys, complain about the Bible test, and they say, Cyrus, will you help me with your Bible test? And I'm a nice guy, and I want to help you.
You are a nice guy.
No, thanks. I want to help the guys with the Bible test, but the only help that I can really give them is if you read these pages, the pages that are on the Bible test, and you actually sit there and you read it and you go by your questions, the answers jump out at you. I mean, they're right there. Right. They're in the text. And for me to sit here and, just go page by page with you and give you, all these answers is not good for you. And it's taking my time. I got others I had access to do, that type stuff, but to actually sit back and read the pages that you're supposed to read, it helps a lot. It really helps a lot. I've read the Bible, a couple of times here and there, but that Bible is a different type of Bible. It doesn't. The stories, how they put them together, it's a lot easier to understand, and it's actually helped me.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, no, it's easy to go through this program and kind of skate through it, to find shortcuts, to find ways around, get guys to kind of help answer your questions for you. And I grade all those Bible tests, so I see these every period of time. There's kind of everyone has kind of the same answers for a period of time, because you can tell they're getting from the same source and those kind of things, instead of really doing the work themselves, and unfortunately missing out on the benefit because they're not putting the work in and taking the long road to really benefit. And it sounds like you're working on doing that more. And I appreciate what you're saying. I think it's all of our desire, and particularly in knowing a lot of guys who have come through this program, they're tender-hearted guys who really want to help other people. but unfortunately, sometimes they get trying to help the wrong people too soon, and they're not ready to really help them, and then they end up just drowning with them instead of being able to help them get out of their circumstance. And that's a challenge, because I know we want to help other people. We love people, and we have a heart for the downtrodden even, and we really want to see them get better. At the same time, we're not always well enough to be able to do that, and drags us down as well. Well, one of the things I was interested in too, as you get to this point in the program, what are your hopes? What do you hope to accomplish this time? As I said, this isn't your first time, so you've accomplished some things. You said you've gained some tools. What do you hope to accomplish this time through? What do you kind of have envisioned for where this might take you through this process?
Well, from being here a couple of times, I know guys that have graduated a couple of years ago. So to see these guys today, the ones that actually stuck with the program and worked the program, it's great. You can, like with Chris Baker, and from watching him, and seeing from where he was to where he's gotten now, it's I wouldn't say it's that I'm envious. I would basically say it shows, what can happen, so.
It's inspirational, right?
Yeah, it's very inspirational. He's not the only one. It's multiple, guys that I look at and I say, well, Cyrus, if you would have just stayed, a couple of, just a little while longer, maybe you would have finally got that stepping stone, and finally got, that block that you needed in order to, to progress or to get past the spot that you always get, stuck in. So what I want to accomplish this time is actually to be somebody, I know that I am somebody, but I need to, really need to use the gifts that I've been given. Because right now it seems like I've just squandered them. Like when it goes to helping people, I tend to help people that don't want to help themselves. And like you say, it always, pulls me back down into a place that I don't want to be in. But looking at those guys, they stopped the conversation. They no longer had the conversation. So I figured that's what I need to do, and if I do that, then the goals that I'm looking to accomplish, they will, they'll be accomplished.
Well, and Chris is a good illustration of what you're talking about. Chris went through this program numerous times. He's been a repeat visitor over time, and now he's enjoying a long life, because it took a while. You can learn tools, but then it takes you a while to learn how to work those tools and implement those tools and learn some more and start, developing and maturing in those tools to the point that you can really bring them to bear in your life successfully. So you're not on a path much different than Chris is even at this point. As you mentioned something I think is really interesting, that you're you want to be somebody. You recognize that you are a somebody, but you want to be something different, or something certainly more stable. What does that person look like to you right now? As you look out and think, you mentioned Chris as an illustration of it, but what would Cyrus look like with a number of years of sobriety and walking out this spiritual recovery that we talk about here? What do you think that would look like?
A leader. They look like a guy that leads people in the right way. I'm a God-fearing guy. When I did leave, I stayed involved with the church. So I sung in the choir a lot. And when I was singing in the choir and when I was going to church on Sunday, although, through the week, I may slide here or slip there, I would always get up that morning. Sunday morning, I'm there. Wednesday Bible study, I'm there. Saturday choir practice, I'm there. And it seemed as when I started to fall away from the church, when I was in the church, it's like God had a hedge of protection around me. So regardless, what I did still, he wouldn't let me, put me in harm's way to where, I would actually just fall all the way down. But once I left the church, it seemed like, it was that the hedge of protection, was gone. So when I say want to be a leader, I want to lead people in the right direction and not ever have to, feel when that hedge of protection gets dropped once you have it around you.
Right.
So.
Well, I think that's a great vision, because certainly I've known you for a number of years, and you are naturally a leader. You're an inspirational kind of guy. You have a lot of gifts and talents, and I think really using them to serve the Lord. I think you found some ways, in the choir and some church things, but really making it a consuming aspect of your whole character, not just an event that I do, but really making it the character of my life is really what you're aiming at. One of the other things I wanted to mention, have you mention and talk about a little bit is, you mentioned early on that you felt like you got some tools and then haven't really implemented them like you would like, and that you see other people doing that. I'm curious to understand from your vantage point what those tools are. What do you think are the things that, if you were to kind of open your toolbox in a sense in recovery and say, these are the tools that His Way gave me that helped me in recovery, what would that toolbox have in it?
Well, one of the things that really sticks with me is we were in class one day, and it was, I guess, an analogy, and it was more that Jesus never ran anywhere. He always walked. So that's one of the main things that I go by now. I mean, because when you're running, you're just passing. You're passing things by. But if you walk and you take it slow, you actually see everything that's around. So that's one of the main tools that I use, is to slow down, and pay attention to what's going on. Don't just let life pass you by.
Right.
And other things is making sure that you keep a good crowd around you, making sure that the people that you hang around are like-minded and they're, trying to go the same direction that you're going, because, if you're going left and I'm going right, then we're not going to meet at all. So,
right.
So I guess we're just keeping good friends, good people around you, and slowing down, and make sure you stay on a narrow path, to there,
Well, and those two things really work together, right? Because you tend to be with people who are going about the same pace you're going. So if you have people who are going that pace, who are walking at that pace, if you're using the illustration, then you're going to build some good friendships with people who are probably going to be doing similar things. And it's they say birds of flock together, right?
Yeah,
so
they do.
As we close this, I appreciate your sharing with us your story. As we close this, I guess, what hopes, what dreams? You're look for a job right now. I know you went to some interviews yesterday. What do you hope the next few months kind of portend for you?
Well, I do want to get a job. I know I need to work. It's therapeutic. It helps me out. But I also want to think about doing something with the school. Because I believe that I would do pretty. I believe that I would do good in school. And to change, I guess to change, I need a complete change. I need to change my entire life. So I need to do everything different this time than what I'm used to doing. I guess that's a big part of me coming back this third time, is that I had to leave Cyrus alone, for a minute. Let me give something else a try, because what I've been doing evidently hasn't worked. It may have worked in some areas, but not the important ones.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Right. That's good. And even what you're talking about is a slower path. School, being here longer, kind of, not getting in a rush. It's easy to kind of get my job, get my money, get out and get back on with life, and not really make the dramatic change that needs to be, which takes a lot more time. As we've said around here before, it took you a while to get into this position. It's going to probably take you a while to get out of it. Indeed. And it takes time. Well, I appreciate you sharing with us today, Cyrus. It's good to be with you. I'm looking forward to the journey that we have before us, and I'm excited for what God has in store. Right. I appreciate you watching us today, and if you want more information, you can check us out at hiswayinc.org.